Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Masculinity, Blessing or Curse. I'm your host, TR Covers, and I have an awesome guy that's going to share with us today. He has a varied number of trophies in his closet that he'll share some of those with us today. The goal and purpose of why I'm here, primarily the goal is to bridge the communication between what I like to call the Moses generation. That is, those of us who are baby boomers. I 70 years old. They tell me I don't look like it. Maybe they telling me that I look like I'm 80. But anyway, the Moses generation trying to get information to that Joshua generation because often we recognize that we won't get there. Like Moses, he got to lead the people for 40 years, but he did not get to the promised land. So he recognized that he had to pass on wisdom, knowledge, or relationship with God to another generation so that they are prepared to go into that next generation. Bernie is with us. Bernie McGraw is with us today. He has, gosh, I mentioned already, just an awesome history of successes. I'll let him introduce himself and then we'll spend some time digging into some of those things that he's done. Bernie, if you would.
Yeah, TR, thanks so much for the invitation to be here. It's nice making this connection with you, and it's really a heart's desire of mine to be that person in younger people's lives that can maybe save them from some roadblocks that I maybe hit in my career and in my ministry. Uh, just a 1 minute bio for me. I've been married 38 years. Um, I have 5 kids. I have 7 grandkids, and a new one on the way. So that'll make 8. My career background has been I was in full time ministry as a worship pastor for 38 years, served 3 churches, um, which is what led me down here to Florida. And along that journey, which we will dive into, I ran into some health issues that were brought on by myself. And so had a real transformation about 8 years ago, which has allowed me to then open up another window of serving people through health coaching. And when I stepped down from full time ministry in 23, started doing some life coaching, ministry coaching, and I also do some work with a disaster relief organization as a result of the hurricanes down here 2 years ago in the area of mental health, which has been a real fun experience, really rewarding. So, as you can see, I really have a heart to help people. That's just kind of the way God created me. Sometimes I wish He didn't create me this way because it's easier if you don't really have that heart to care. I do have a heart to care, and so but it really has put me on a platform to be able to help people in variety of ways.
Awesome, awesome. And really, in awe at the accomplishments. I want to start with one that, as you know, or people that watch know, I am in the gym 4 days a week. I love doing it because I say that life has the responsibility, or gravity, I say, has the responsibility of keeping us down. If it were not for gravity, we'd be floating off into space. Ultimately, gravity wins and it will push us all in the ground. It will win. Until that time, I'm pushing back, I'm
That's for
fighting
sure.
it.
Hmm.
I admire, as I look back over some of the things that you've done, I admire the fact that, Bernie, you lost 75 pounds. At the first of the year, many people have these resolutions that they're going to get in shape, lose weight, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to me about how we can get through this idea of I need to lose the weight, I need to be healthier. How does that work? How did you get to that?
Well, let me start by saying how I got to be in that place. As you can imagine, serving in full time ministry, um, 5 kids, especially once I hit junior high and their schedules were different. I mean, I was just running around. I literally did not prioritize myself at all, and I felt like I was doing the right thing, because, as a dad, you want to serve your family, you want to serve your wife, you want to serve your church. So there's nothing wrong with those things. But I missed the ingredient of self care in the midst of all of that. And so I also had a history of emotional eating and stress eating. It's kind of, I grew up in an atmosphere where food became a reward for me. And so naturally, when you're stressed, when you have emotional things, you eat as a reward or a comfort, and it just caught up with me. So at age 54, I was on 5 meds for blood pressure and cholesterol. The doctor was saying, you're really borderline pre-diabetic. You really need to, if you just took a little bit of weight off. And I remember my doctor was just this little skinny dude that, like, telling this big old dude to take some pounds off. And I almost wished he would have gotten my face and just say, "Dude, what are you doing?" But he was so nice about it. And but what was a catalyst for my journey was I twofold. Number one, I had a really good friend, a ministry friend who was morbidly obese. And he kind of used it as a tagline. He used it as an opportunity for his ministry. He was involved in children's ministry. So his name, his name was Big Vinny. That's what he went by. But the day after Christmas, I think in 2016, he died instantly in his home and left 7 children. He had some adopted kids from Africa, and he died. Like, literally, that caused me to have, I want to say, a healthy fear. Like, something started to awaken in me. Like, Bernie, if you do not do something, that could be you. And I had 5 kids at the time, all these grandkids, like, I want to live. I want to be happy. The second part of it, outside of the medical part, was I was becoming more of I started isolating. I started feeling really terrible about myself. At the time, in front of 2,000 people every Sunday leading worship, feeling very large, feeling like everybody in the room is looking at me. And they were like
Yeah.
looking at me through my eyes.
Right. Right.
So anyway, long story short, I just realized, I have to change. Like I just, the pain of staying the same was enough to say, I have to make a difference. So, and that's what I did. And I won't go into the long story of how God created the pathway for me to do what I did. But, it was one of those God moments where, like, the door was wide open, to partner with a program and to partner with a coach that could help me be accountable. And I started a journey in 2018. And 6 months, I took the 76 pounds off, cleaned up the blood
Wow.
work. My doctor was thrilled. But what it did for me personally was, I'll give you an example. I have my youngest daughter. She's 24 now, but at the time, she was 15, I think. She said to me one day, she said, "Dad, you seem so happy." This was after, I started losing weight. She said, "You seem happier." And it really struck a chord that, she never said, "You seem depressed" before, or "You seem," you know what I'm saying? She never brought
Right.
up the
Right.
negative, but there was enough change in me personally and emotionally in the way I showed up. And that's why I tell dads all the time, because I get this from dads: "I'm too busy. I can't go to the gym 4 times a week. I can't get out and walk. I can't," right? We hear the
Right. Right.
excuse,
Right.
and that
Right.
was my excuse for many years. But when you have your child recognize that you're showing up different, you're more present, you have more energy, I'm playing with my grandkids, that's worth the few minutes a week that you can put into yourself. So, um, yeah, that was the catalyst to get me going.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot in that. The Well, the scriptures give us all things work together for the
Mm,
good of those that love the Lord and called according to his purpose. Big Benny passed away. That's tragic,
mhm.
especially the day after Christmas. But that becomes a wake up call for you. So it works together and not,
Sure,
again,
sure, I
respect
understand.
for that family and so forth. But it says, oh, wow, that could be me. And that becomes a kind of a catalyst. Then the depression, oftentimes maybe not because of weight, but because of life, because of stress. We deal with depression, anxiety, stress, etc. And us as men, we typically try to, what's the term? Man up,
Yep,
suck it
100%.
up.
Yep.
And, all of those things kind of compound to make it more difficult. Now, but you said you sought out a coach. Talk to me about that. Is that something you said, well, I can't do this alone, or there's something available?
Well, the program that I did includes a health coach. So I did a structured nutritional program that helped me. It took it was kind of a no brainer. It kind of took the nutrition side out of my like having to come up with a plan because it was already pretty much already done for you. Um, and then the coach was just there for accountability. So, 6 months in, I had people saying, "What are you doing?" Obviously, so I actually became a coach. So I coach that program now just to help people reset their habits. But it was really the catalyst for me was the accountability of a coach, and because I'm a really good rule keeper, and I have
Mm.
been. So again, one of those personality things I sometimes wished I wasn't that detailed and meticulous about keeping rules. I'm actually learning to widen that a little bit, but um, knowing that I was going to check in with him once a week was a game changer for me.
Mm.
And I'll take 1 minute here and tell you the story if it's okay about.
Sure, sure.
So my wife and I had finished a Christmas musical in 2017. We had a short trip. We won a trip to Mexico for 4 or 5 days, all exclusive for buying a car at a dealership here in Southwest Florida. If anybody's listening from Southwest Florida, you know exactly where I'm talking about. And we did. We won a trip. So finished a musical, got on a plane and flew to Mexico. Meanwhile, I'm 76 pounds overweight, right?
Right.
And I was on the beach with my wife, and she said, "Hey, I gotta take a call." I said, "Okay." She's a realtor, so that's not uncommon. But she was gone a really long time. She was gone like an hour. I thought, man, this is a serious call. And I remember I was drinking a virgin pina colada on the beach, watching all these people, and I felt so out of place, because I was so overweight. And I remember having a conversation with God, saying, "God, I have to do something in 2018. And I feel like I know how to do it, but I just can't get started. Like, I don't know what the first step is."
Mm.
And I left it at that. I said, I made a commitment that I was going to make a change in 2018. When I got back from the trip, it got closer to Christmas, and my wife said, "Bernie, I have a Christmas gift I want to give to you, but I don't know if you'll like it." Which I'm not hard to please at all. So that caught me off guard. I'm like, "Ooh." After all these years of marriage, and she said, "Well, this is kind of different." And she began to tell me about this program and this coach. And she said, "I would like to buy your first month's program for your Christmas present if you're willing to do it."
Wow.
So that call at the beach on that day was that I
Wow.
get emotional
You
sometimes
answered prayer.
because I was praying desperately on the beach. God was answering the prayer in a hotel room, and then it came together. So when I realized all those pieces came together, I had no choice but to do this program.
Wow.
But it really set me on a trajectory of life change late in life. And my mission now is to really reach out to dads that are younger, getting ready to go into those busy years or in those busy years, and they're saying, "I don't have time to take care of myself."
Wow.
You have to make time. You have to make time.
Wow. That's answered prayer. That's
Mhm.
that's awesome. You mentioned, I've heard you speak to the issue that the weight is a symptom,
Mm,
but there's something else.
mhm.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think a lot of times, having coached hundreds of people at this point, when you dive into somebody's story that their health is out of whack or they've, put on weight, there's always a story behind that weight. There's
Mm.
always, I remember one person, her husband, um, particularly. She had remarried. She had a divorce. She remarried and was pregnant and just had a new baby. And her new husband was killed in a car wreck. And so
Wow.
she put on 40, 50 pounds of grief. We say weight, but it was actually 40 to 50 pounds of grief.
That's an interesting term.
So you think of just from every category, like, marriage, parenting, stress, um, past pain, abuse, all of those things many times come into. Another lady, I coached her. She was probably in her low 60s when I did her first assessment with her. Her mom at age 6 had told her she was a bigger girl, and she told her at age 6, "You're always going to be fat." The
Mm,
mom told the daughter. I'm talking to the daughter at age 61, and she said, I'm tired of being fat. I'm tired of listening to my mom's voice in my head."
wow.
So, that's what I'm talking about. It's not we live in such a society with all the options that people can do for weight loss, and we look at it's such a diet mentality. I can stop eating ABC for a few weeks and I'm going to lose weight, but we all go back to ABC, right? We
Yeah.
all go back to those same. Or we
Because
can
you've been
take
programmed. That girl was programmed from age
she
6
was. She was. And
to believe.
I had another call just 2 weeks ago where a man said the doctor told him as a little boy, you are always going to be a big boy. And
Wow.
and he I think he was like 45. He remembers that doctor, and that doctor's like, so there's a lot of times there's something identifiable when you really start coaching and diving into why the pain point. That's my
Yeah.
gut. My role is to find out somebody's pain point. What is really the reason? Another story I'll give you. An older man did an assessment. He didn't do my program, but we did an assessment and he kept saying he needed to lose weight and he did. And I was trying to dig down as to why. And he finally he said, "Well, to be really honest," he said, I'm tired of going to a restaurant and having to find a table and chair that I can sit in because I can't sit in a booth with my wife." So,
Wow.
there's always that's what I'm trying to say, that it's a lot more than just weight. But that takes somebody that's willing. Not everybody wants to go there.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody wants to
Yeah.
change.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And sometimes not even aware that it's there. Because
Very, very true.
if you've been told that since you were 6 years old or a child, you very innocently
Yes.
embrace that as the gospel.
Mhm.
That's true.
Yep.
It's one of the commandments. I'm gonna be fat. So you can't change that. And
Yep.
and I know that's true because a person that loves me, my mother, told me that. So
Yep.
it's true.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what I do. And then the other term you mentioned, pounds of grief. That's interesting. That it's not, it was the grief that was creating the appetite or the
Mhm.
food. And so I'm going to food as a method to relieve my grief.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these sound like the couch for a psychiatrist, that we are involved in our lives in something that we're trying to answer in the immediate with whatever's going on, the stress, the
Mhm.
job, the kid, or whatever. But it's something that maybe have started years ago, and you're simply responding in like
Yep.
pattern to the way you've been programmed.
Yeah. The
Um,
other side of that too is, so you have that kind of emotional side, but then you also have kind of a community side. We become with like the people we hang with. So
right,
if you grow up in a family that's very unhealthy with food, you most likely will be unhealthy with food. And if you don't change, you're going to raise the next generation that is unhealthy with food.
right.
And I was that person. My wife is very healthy. And she used to get so frustrated with me sometimes with the way I handled the 5 kids, because
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a reward with food, hey guys, Let's go get an ice cream cone. Oh, you did great on the baseball field. Let's go get a milkshake.
Oh wow.
And there's nothing wrong with those things, right? But
Yeah.
if you really stop and look at motivation, sometimes it's from a deeper place than just a casual ice cream cone. And I still take my grandkids to get an ice cream cone. I'm not, but it's not being used as a coping mechanism.
Right.
But I
Right.
do want to say this, TR. It's interesting. When I started on day one, I was not aware that I was an emotional eater. I was not aware that I was a stress eater, or that I was, like, I had to get started first. Like, the simple act of watching what I eat and being structured with what I eat led me to be able to actually take a deeper dive to myself. So I like to tell, if I'm on a health assessment with a potential new client that's asking me about the program, I always tell them this, when the weight started coming off, for me, it it allowed some emotional weight to start to come off, which then allowed me to be curious as to, well, why did it come on? Which, so it's not like, I don't want somebody to feel like, oh, I'm just going to start this and I'm magically going to know all my life's history. And it was a journey. It was a journey, a 6-month journey, where the confidence that I got allowed me to go deeper into myself than inside, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So as the physical fat was burnt off my body through fat burn, then the emotional baggage then began to fall off as well. And I was able to be curious as to, um, you know, why have I been like this my whole life? So,
That's powerful because it's what it again speaks to is the weight, and you say this, the weight is not necessarily the physical weight.
mhm,
There is potentially an emotional, psychological, cultural weight that's there
yeah,
that you have to release yourself
yeah,
from or become conscious of, first of all, because if you're not conscious of it, you don't know that you're in it.
hmm,
Uh, and then having a accountability coach, and I
yeah,
love that because often people will start something. How do you deal with a person? Because people come to you and they say, "Well, I like the coaching. I don't want to do it. I can do that on my own.
hmm,
I can change. I can just stop eating. I mean, I get on this diet, and Jenny Craig told me I can do it, and I'm doing it, man. I don't need you." But
yeah,
then, 3 weeks into it, I mean, resolutions are like, I mean, I'm in the gym in January. The first 2, 3 weeks in January, you can't get a machine.
yep.
Everybody's there. About that third week, once the pain hits in, you can get in there. How do you keep it up if
Yeah. So the very first thing I do with a potential client is I have them identify their why, and why start a journey like this. And everybody says, I want to look better, I want to feel better, I want to get healthy. That's a very platonic answer. That's a very, so my job as a coach is to, well, tell me more about that. Like, like the guy I mentioned about the restaurant booth, there was like 6 layers of question that got me to that pain point. So, that is the answer for me. The best answer I can give you in having a coach is, they can act, if they do well at coaching, and if they're just babysitting and throwing product or whatever at you, or, but if it's a good coach that really cares for people and empathetic for the pain points, can dive down into that. And then I keep that in front of the person, because, yeah, anybody, and I'm actually 8 years into this. I'm honest with people. If it was you on a call with me, I would be honest and say, listen, this will be no different than every other diet that's out there. If you don't really, hold yourself accountable. I'm not a babysitter, and I'm sort of a cheerleader, but I don't even like that phrase. It's more of just, hey, I want to support you. I want to walk this journey with you. My coach was there, but he didn't like baby step me along the way. It was just the fact that I knew he was there. It was the knowledge that on Monday I needed to text him what my scale said. That kept me on the weekend a lot of times because I'm number one, I'm paying for something. So that's why there is value in paying for a program,
Right.
because a lot of people will take it more serious. But yeah, I think it just approaches somebody's how desperate. I was desperate. I would have done anything because I was desperate. So if you have somebody that's casually coming to you, yeah, I think I might. I already have a red flag. This is probably not going to work for them,
Yeah.
because they won't want the accountability. They won't want the structure. They'll come into it with a deprived attitude. Oh, I can't have. I can't have. I can't
Uh,
have. And I was that person. I gotta say, my first few days, my first couple of weeks, it didn't take me long to see results, so that was helpful. But I did have a deprived mindset, like, "Ugh, I just want a slice of pizza, or I just want whatever." And I had to make like, and this is where the coaching aspect helped me, was because the community was very instrumental in working with mindset, to be able to say, okay, it's not a matter of I can't have. I could have it. I can have it. I'm choosing not to because I want to be free at age 62 now to do, I had a PR on a 5K this week, on an indoor 5K. It's hot down here in Florida, so I've been running inside. I PR'd it. Like I'm 62, almost 63. So that's freedom, you
yes.
know?
Yes.
So deprivation, if somebody has a deprivation mindset, it's not going to work. If
Mm.
they have a growth mindset saying, you know what, I need change, I need help to change, that's a candidate that I know I can help. So, yeah, diet mentality doesn't work for anybody. It's temporary. It's a quick fix. My go to. I had a conversation with the man last night. My go to is, you know, you have to try to find something that's sustainable.
Mm.
If what you're doing you don't want to do forever, it's probably not going to work because
Yeah.
you're going to stop it. And I think we live in a society where everything is really quick. Everything is fast. Lose 20 pounds in a week.
Right.
Number one, that's not healthy, and it's not sustainable. So
Right.
that's my sermon. Sorry, I get on that soapbox.
On cue. On cue. I want to switch gears, and that's how. Here, before I move from that, what I want, we're talking about losing weight or dieting or whatever you choose to say in that space, but it's hand in glove with something else. As you say, losing the weight is maybe a symptom of something deeper than that.
Hmm.
On the surface, it shows up as extra weight, but underneath that is the term that you used a moment ago. This was 70 pounds of grief. The grief was the real issue.
Hmm.
The weight was there simply because the food became my medicinal
Hmm.
work.
Hmm.
I was eating to medicate me. The problem was the grief. And if we can unravel this whole idea that the problem that we have is may not be the weight itself. The problem is that they've been telling me all my life since I was 6 years old that I'm big bone or that my nickname is Big Benny. And
Hmm.
you feel like you have to, once they call me Big Benny, I mean, Big Benny can't show up as a small person.
Hmm. Hmm.
My uniform, my superhero name is Big Benny.
Yep.
So I have to speak into that. Wow, that's powerful to recognize that it may be something else. Listen, I want to get to this. Listen, 5 kids. My wife and I, let's see, Jerry and I have been married in on August 12th will be 48 years. 3 kids, 4 grands. Love it. Celebrate it. All that. Five and let's see, 4 boys, 1 girl. Is that what it is?
Three and two, three boys, two
Three
girls.
boys. Okay. So with 3 boys, that means if they're boys like boys, there's wrestling. It's always something in the house broken.
100%.
Always. And the girls. I don't know. Every now and again, the girls did it, but usually it's the boys wrestling. It's something that they did. I mean, what is the advice, suggestion that you offer to new dads of this Joshua generation who are raising kids? It's a different blueprint. There was a time, I'll say this, there was a statement that came about when I was a kid. I don't know about you. I don't know what your experiences was, but this statement meant something. The street lights are on. Does that mean anything with you?
I think I know where I think I might know where you're going, but
Well, well, just to give it to you, because when the street lights came on in my neighborhood, it means you better get in the house.
mm,
This generation doesn't go outdoors in the first
no,
place.
that's very
I don't know, or do they? You've got kids
true.
now, so it's not like the street lights is not an alarm.
Yeah.
They're This is their exercise.
Hmm.
I mean, what's the advice? What's the suggestion for dads in the Joshua generation?
Well, I think too. I want to give you a little backstory on
Please.
my experience. I grew up. My mom and dad were married their whole lives, 49 years. He passed away when he was 75. Um, but he worked two or three jobs, really not present at all in my life. Um, there. But he also, without going into detail, his background was he had no clue how to be a dad. He was
Mm,
separated from his parents at age 10 because they were alcoholics. So the state came and took two kids this way, two another, and two another. So they were all split up.
wow.
His whole family at age 10.
Wow.
He had no clue how to be a dad. He had no in that era. No, he's a World War II vet. He was, you know, they had, you didn't talk about how to be a dad, 10 steps to be a better dad. There was no
Yes.
podcast, so,
Right.
you
Right.
know, I had to realize that,
You
and
whip your child, and they'll do what you tell them, and then
yeah,
you're dad.
yeah, or just do what I say, right?
Yep.
That line is always an interesting one.
Yeah.
So
That was.
anyway, that I
Yeah.
came from that background of not having an active dad, and I loved it. I mean, he was not abusive. He just wasn't there. Like he didn't know how to show affection. He didn't know how to give words of affirmation at all. So I'm coming into my parenthood with that concept of I don't want to be that person. Like I don't want my kids to grow up feeling like, does dad really love me? Has dad spoken into my life? Does dad show up at my games? So I was very busy in my career, and schedule as a pastor was really chaotic. But I made a covenant to myself that I am going to do my best to be at their games, to take them to their practices, to their dance recitals, to their musicals. And with five kids, you can imagine the schedule was crazy. So that was what I was talking about earlier about where the weight came on, because it was all about what is easy because I'm so busy. So fast food was easy. Um, but so my number one thing I would probably say, I was working with, I'm a moderator on a dad's page, a Facebook group, and we do a kind of a huddle every Wednesday night. And this subject actually came up this week about self care and time management. And I do mentor with a mutual friend. I'm one of the mentors with the Men's Mentoring Network. And I always tell people the number one gift you could give your child isn't the game, all the games that they can play, isn't travel, baseball, or basketball. I'm not saying those are wrong. The number one thing you can give your child as a dad is the gift of your presence.
Mhm.
You being there when you walk in the door. You don't bring all the crap from work and all the stress and all the anxiety or the exhaustion and just sit on the couch. You bring yourself. I coached a life coaching client, and he was struggling with anger and struggling with some things, somewhat related to his job. And so when he come home, he was already ticked, and then he's got all these kids running around, and he just found him. And so we talked about the pause, like take 5 minutes before you go in the house, sit in your truck, 5 minutes, whatever you can do to bring that nervous system down, to be intentional with walking in the door. Hey, dad's home. And that's if you're a dad listening, what do your kids do? Are they anticipating you coming home and exciting and run to the door and scream? That was one of my most favorite memories, is the
Yes.
kids all running around jumping in my arms. There's something very special about that.
Yes.
Now I have more grandkids doing that, and
Yeah.
that's very, very special. But they have to want to do that, right? So you
Yeah.
have to build a relationship for them to want. Or are they hiding in their room because they don't want to be by dad because he's so ugly and angry when he walks in the door and going to tell me everything I did wrong that day. So I think the number the number one piece of advice I give younger dads is, don't get caught up with just the busyness of life, with careers. Don't feel like you can just gift your kids everything they want and they're going to love you. No, they're going to love the things. They're not going to love you. They need to know that dad is there. Love your kids. Hug them. Yes, I have three boys. I still hug them. I saw my son that lives a couple hours away the other day. I hugged him. I sent him for Father's Day. The thought came to me. I'm a firm believer in calling out what you see in somebody. Like, if you see somebody tell them. Like, why do we wait till a funeral to say nice things about people? So for Father's Day this year, I actually wrote all five of my kids an individual note, and identified one thing in their life that really, really I feel is a great quality, and just call that out. Call them to greatness, or what I see potentially in them. It was very meaningful to them. It took some time. It took some creativity. And my even one kid said, "Dad, you're the father. Why are you?" I said, "Well, I just want to leave something with you." So I think I think our society has believed the lie that the busier our kids can be and the more achievements that our kids can do. I did have a boy that did some travel sports, and they were all in things with church and schools. But I also made sure that we created time at home where it was just us, like they had me. So I don't know if that necessarily directly answers your question, but
Well, sure. And I want to go this for that. It's it's a big deal to try to create something from nothing.
yeah,
In other words, because your father did not give you this prototype,
yeah,
there was no profile. It's okay. This is the way you do it. Your dad sounds like maybe the average guy who my father was like this too. He was there, but my dad did not have a high school education. So
yeah.
the jobs that he had demanded that he be away. And my dad would leave the house about 6 a.m. He'd come back in about 10.
Mm,
But it was survival. I mean, seven people in the house was not able to eat unless
yep.
he was there. He was not a professional person, so did not have that package to say, I want to embrace my son. I heard Richard say this. One of the things that we chimed in on, he said about if you had twins, a boy and a girl, about age 3, you'd start shaking your boy's hand and embracing your daughter. In other words, putting that arm's length of distance between father and son because you were concerned about his masculinity.
Mm,
The prototype that you had was the dad who said, because I said so. And that was the end of it. But now you have to create something
mhm.
that may tempt this whole idea of masculinity. You embrace your son. You complimented him. You just tell him, boy, you did good, and just you know, um, that's phenomenal, and that's a turning of the generational rearing
Mhm.
of fathers. Commendable
Yeah.
uh, that you would say that. Talk to me about this idea of converting. I mean, gosh, you pastored for 30 plus years. Now I'm doing something different.
Yeah.
I'm doing something different. How do you make this switch? People know you as pastor,
Mhm.
Um, so now you coach somebody. You're
Mhm.
you're no longer Big Benny.
uh, yeah. You know, l- life transitions are so important, but they're so difficult, and many don't make them. Um, and believe me, in the last 3 years, there's been moments of like, why did I make this transition? Because it created freedom, obviously, but then it created some other issues on this side of things. But for me, it really twofold. Number one, I had done the same thing for 38 years, pretty much, the same, the same position, just three different churches. I absolutely loved doing what I did, but I really lost the passion for doing it. COVID made it very difficult to pastor in that particular area of time. Um, and I just really lost the passion, and I felt really that I faked it well. I will say that.
Mhm.
I don't think many people knew kind of where I was at emotionally with it, but I absolutely love doing it. Um, and it's like any job. There's certain things you actually love, but then there's many things that you don't like, right? And so the don't likes started becoming more prevalent to me, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
anyway, what created space for me to desire to start doing some coaching with leaders, pastors, staff pastors, dads, was part of my 38 years. There were some situations that were very difficult, and actually that's where some of the weight actually came on as well. And it was a situation back then where you just didn't talk to people about it. You did your job. um you weren't gonna rat people out. And I had no place to process some of those things, because if you did process them with somebody and it was found out, then you would be divisive, you would be critical, you would be not a team player, all of the things, when in reality there were issues, but no one was talking about the issues. And so, long story short, I realized towards the end of my career, there were younger leaders that needed a safe place to process some things. Um, they didn't want to quit their job. They just needed, how do I handle, like, and really process, not me telling them what to do, but just giving them a place to talk like you and I are talking right now, so that kind of led me to, it was the kind of the exhaustion of what I was doing, um, wanting a little time freedom, wanting a little bit more less structured, in my day as I move into my 60s. But really, it was war. I wanted to make more impact. I wanted to make more. Um, I just really wanted to be more helpful coaching people, whether it be a younger pastor that doesn't feel qualified, because we bring all these stories with us, like into these roles. And one of my coaching clients was, fearful of taking a new position that he was offered and wanted, because he had always believed the lie that he wasn't enough. So we spent a whole session just really diving into the lie and where did it come from, finding the root of it. So, that takes time, and that takes somebody asking some hard questions. So I I found that my passion kind of shifted to more of this role. It's been a very difficult transition. I will always tell people, if you're at this stage of life, think through your transition, because it's not always what you think it's going to be. And there's a lot of work, a lot of disappointment, a lot of struggle. So certainly not talking from a place of perfection that I did it correctly, but um, it has been very rewarding to come alongside people and give them space, whether it's a dad that is, just like I mentioned earlier, dealing with his own. He actually just emailed me a thank you, for creating space for him to deal with his anger, and giving him opportunities to voice that. But then also, how do we improve that? What are some things that we can do? So it's been
Awesome.
rewarding. It's just not a really easy journey. And I will say this: If you're in your late 50s thinking of a career change, make sure something's lined up because a lot of people don't want to hire people that are in their 60s.
Yeah.
I'm learning that,
Yes, sir.
the hard way. But yeah, it was more for impact. It was more for being true to who I am and not just keeping a job because you need a job,
Yeah.
but really wanting to make a difference.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And you're doing kind of what the theme of this show is. You are the Moses
Hmm.
trying to reach into the Joshua circle to
Yeah,
say, I know what you're going through.
yeah,
I dealt with the murmurings myself. So,
yeah,
Joshua, get prepared. There will be murmurings, there will be
yeah,
abandonments and those kind of things. And here is a pit stop that you can come into and get refueled. Listen,
yeah.
I don't want to take a lot of time. Let me end with this. You talked about legacy. What is it that you want to be sure is passed down from all of the gifts that God has given you?
Yeah.
What would you want to be your legacy to your grandkids, to life?
Well, I just wrote a blog on this. Legacy. I think sometimes we think it starts when you're old, and a legacy doesn't start when you're old. A legacy starts 30, 40, 50 years ago. A legacy is created by habits. How did you show up as a 30-year-old dad? That's my legacy started back then. Your legacy started not at age 70. It started many years ago. So we all are creating a legacy, good or bad. It's in that and that legacy will be talked about at your funeral, right?
Mm,
So I always tell people, I think we spend a whole lifetime because we're so busy just running that hamster wheel, and
mm,
we don't realize we're actually creating that legacy, whether it's the one we want or one we don't want,
right.
and that requires a lot of self-awareness as to, okay, I don't, this is what I want to be. I talk to dads all the time, and I'll say, what do you want your kids to say about you 20 years from now? It that requires right now begin
Yeah.
to make some changes. So for me, I think I think for my family, I and I was very humbled when I did retire from full time ministry. My kids all expressed publicly, the fact that I was there for them, even though they knew I was really busy. And if I couldn't be there, they knew there was a really good reason why I couldn't, and I would make it up later. And that was a part of my legacy. That was because I before I became a dad, I made that commitment to myself. I am going to show up for my kids. So legacies are built years before, and we get to choose what legacy we're living. And so that would be one in my family, that I loved them well, and I affirmed them, and certainly not perfect. I'm glad they're not on this call. Uh, but overall, I feel like I really created an effort. And then on the career side of it, I think probably the greatest thing that I would want to be said of me was that I made somebody better, meaning I pulled out greatness in somebody else, whether it's in the area of health and being able to be free in their bodies in the temple that God gave us, or it might be in their career, or it might be in their family, in their marriage, and their parenting. John Maxwell says that this leaders are lifters. And that's been really my passion for, 40 some odd years now of some type of a career, is I just really want to make somebody feel like they can actually be the person they want to be and
Wow.
not settle for how many times we settle. I'll just settle for this.
Right.
Nah, you need somebody to push you out of that eagle's nest and learn how to fly. So yeah.
Listen, Baptist preacher that I am, I know I said that was the close, but there's one other thing. You know, that was just the first close.
Let's just say it's not Baptist only, all right?
Listen, here's something else that I thought was phenomenal. You have 5 kids, but there is something unique about one of them. One of them, let's see, there's four that are yours, one that you chose, right? You know what I'm
I don't
saying?
No, I don't. Kind of
Okay.
let me.
What? Maybe that was someone else. Um, that you adopted one.
No, all five are.
Okay,
They're
so that
all.
was that was that was
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
Mark or someone, one of those guys. Okay, all right.
yeah.
Well,
I have five. I was happy with three. But my wife wasn't happy with three, and so we had a couple surprises. My daughter hates it when I say that. I don't ever say accident because I don't believe in accidents. I believe God creates life and He knows exactly. It was just a very much a surprise, especially
oh
number five.
wow,
And
that's
but number
that's
five
awesome.
still lives with us. She's 24 and doing great in her career, and I'm very proud of all my kids.
Yeah,
I will say this: parenting adult kids is so much harder than parenting younger kids. And my mom used to say that to me. I wished all your feet were under my table again. I used to think that's so crazy. Like, why would you say that? But as a parent of adults, I certainly understand that more and more because it was a lot easier arguing with them about eating the broccoli versus some of the things that adults have to go through. So
yeah,
but it's one of my favorite roles. I love being a dad. I love being a husband. Thankful for my wife. We've just gone through this 3-year transition to with career. It's been hard for her because the stability of just life has changed,
yeah.
but it's caused us to really kind of partner together and I think that's what marriage. We didn't really talk about marriage, but that is what marriage is all about, for better or worse.
And
Richer or poor.
I know you have another commitment. We can pick that one up another time because
Sure.
certainly that one is an issue for us to deal with as well. There
Yeah.
is a difference between being a husband, father, while your children have feet under the table and you're feeding them,
Mm,
and then when the children are gone
yeah.
and now it's just you and mama, there's a difference in that relationship, and we can talk
Definitely.
about that. Listen,
Yeah.
I want to let you go. Bernie McGraw was with us today.
Thanks, buddy.
Wow, just phenomenal nuggets of truth that you've shared with us. Thank you for opening your heart to us, to the people that are here. I would advise, please, please, please subscribe, hit the button down below us here, subscribe, and you'll be getting the notifications and so forth each week. We air every Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, and I look forward to sharing with you. Give a hand to Bernie with us today.
Thank you, TR. I appreciate it.
God bless you. God keep you. All right. Until next time, we'll see you next Sunday.